From child brides to chain makers, from teen moms to trailblazers, from silence after rape to speeches that shake nations, from forgotten names to forces of history. She rolls beyond trauma, past mistakes, and everything meant to break her. This is the Beyond Her Odds Show. Real stories that inspire you to rise, to heal, to lead. Because if she did, so can you.
This show is where we share stories of women, real stories of women who have gone through incredible things in life and are doing incredible things now with their lives to support other women, other girls, and doing things in their community to help and support other people beyond what has happened to them. My name is Raquel Kushan Daniel, and as always, you can call me RKD. And I'll be your host again today with another powerful guest on the show. If you've been listening to the show for a couple of weeks now, you know that we've been bringing amazing people on the show. We've brought in Diwan, who she shared her story about how she got married, and after a few months, I sent her a text message that he's not doing anymore. Heartbreaking, but what did she do with that? If you missed the show, we're still going to air the show on YouTube, so just buckle up and wait for more information. We also had Enifome who talked about how she was in a marriage where she was abused, but then she found her way out and now she's living again and helping other women to live again. Just last week, we had Eniola who was here to share her story about school, an educational setback that she had. If I remember correctly, I know that she shared that she has spent over 10 years, about 10 years on campus, going from place to place on campus, and eventually she decided that, you know what, I needed to just study and then leave this place, and which she did. How did these women go beyond their odds? We shared all that story on this show, and we'll continue to share that again and again until the end of this season. Today we have yet another guest on the show. This one is my friend again. I know you say, oh yeah, she's bringing. Yes, I'm bringing amazing people that have the show. And today we're sitting with someone who embodies what it means to lose everything and still choose to live again. And also not just live for herself, but to live for other people. I call her Sisi Ashake. She's the executive director of Ashake Foundation. But before we get to all the fancy things she does at Ashake Foundation, we'd like to get to hear her story. Well, first and foremost, you're welcome on the show.
Thank you.
So how do you feel coming on the show?
I feel so elated. Yeah. Finally able to share this part of my life.
Oh,
Let's share the good parts. Let's
Yeah.
share the story. Let's share the journey so that everybody will understand that there's always a journey before you get to the destination.
yes. Thank you so much. There's always a journey before we get to destination. So what is this journey? Can you share to us, a bit of your background? I know I posted it on social media. People always ask me when they see me posted, can't wait to hear this person's story, because I want to hear people share their journeys and how they got to where they gotten to and how they are going to. So tell us, what's the background?
Okay, so thank you for having me on the show one more time. I'm so grateful. So Mayowa. So Mayowa was born in Lagos,
Okay.
to be precise.
Okay.
To a family of 8. 4 boys and 2 girls,
Yes.
and the last girl, the last one of my mother. And so, I grew up with a little bit of thanks. I went to my first private school, went to a second private school, then I went to a government institution in Lagos. And, I I thought I knew how my life was going to be. I grew up with friends, neighbors, used to have cakes, all these things, good, beautiful environment. And then, some decisions were made one day and then we had to move.
Wow.
Yes.
Like some decision mean that something just random, or was it
No.
parents?
Parental decisions, thinking that's the best for us. Well, as a parent right now, I kind of understand, how sometimes we have to make critical decisions. But
Yeah.
at that point, it was not funny for the children because we grew up together as a very strong bond.
Mm.
And then we had to go to a very local community in Lagos. Imagine if we lived in a 3-bedroom, all the parks, and then you're going to a place where there's no roof, there's no door, there's
No way.
no window, there's no flooring, and the toilet was, where
No, so we need to get context here. For those who don't live, who have never lived in Lagos, who like Abuja, so I want to give context. So side by side Lagos and Abuja. Where is Surulere in Abuja?
So Sulere means you're living in a place like Busi,
Okay.
like the chill side of Busi. And then where we went to was moving to one man village.
Okay, so where is Mama Village?
So like somewhere at the outskirts.
Okay.
Because at that time it was no current. When we moved to the house, there was no light. So
Wow.
we were like the king with low current.
Even with low current.
Yeah, because really
Wow.
there's no current.
So there's no power in that.
There was no power in that community, and there was no fence. Like I said, there was no window, there was no door, there was no roof. So it was we.
So how did you feel as a child moving from comfort in a very comfortable house, very comfortable, and then your parents just say, we need to move? But what was the reason for the move?
So it was financial issues.
Okay.
You know, financial issues of, you know, my mom was working in Abuja, my father was in Lagos, and my father was a lot concerned about my mom spending so much money paying. He was a businessman, but at that period business was low.
Okay.
So she was the one that was bearing the brunt of the expenses. And so because of that, she was always spending. And then he woke up one day and was like, why is he going to pay another house rent again when he has a house? And how about the house review? We're just kids. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because he's a matured man. So he just feels they'll be fine now. What's there?
They're
But
kids.
the kids. And then the girls, 2 girls, you know, and yeah.
That would have been a lot, you know.
lot.
That would have been a lot as a child, you know. So I want to get, you know, more information about it as we're going deep into our conversation. As to, so can you remember how it felt being in that community, you know, hanging out with the children in the community, the school? Yes, school. So like enrolling in a school,
Yes.
yeah, you know.
Okay, so back then in that community, I think I was in secondary school, and then I grew up with some people, and then I was devastated because where I grew up, there's a way we think, there's a way we talk, there's a way I grew up speaking very good English.
Queen's English.
You know, very good English, and then you're in a community where it is pure Yoruba.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't understand that. I'm telling you, for long, nobody could understand the girl that was speaking that English. That English was too much. It was too much, you know. And I think I just finished in GSS3 that time. So it was a lot of struggle for my parents because the plan was finish GSS3, resume with my friends in SS1. We had grown up together, you know, GSS1, GSS2, GSS3. Oh, SS1. We'll see in September. Oh.
And then you just
We
disappeared.
never saw.
Wow.
We never saw. I think I met one like 5 years ago. So we never saw again. And
So what did that do to you as a young teenage girl?
It affected me. It made me always feel like I would never have stability of friends. Because at that point, growing up, when you make those friends, for you think that they're your friends for life. And all of a sudden, those friends are cut short. You don't know when you're going to ever see them. There was not really full connection that time. So how do you think you're going to be able to call, email, WhatsApp? All those things were not existing. So it was traumatic. I felt left out. I started looking for validation. And then we'll go forward.
So you started looking for friends because like my friend Boligi used to say, validation junkie. When you start looking for validation so much, you become a junkie at it because that's all that you want, you think you need to survive. Right? So now you are looking for friends because you don't have friends, and then you start to speak English. It's like Omoibo, like you say you want that speaks English and all that. And Oloyinbo. Okay, pardon my Yoruba.
English is too much. Tone it down. Yes. And when you tone it down, then your English, you know, your spoken language now become broken.
Yeah.
And then when it's broken, you struggle again because now you think that's like the way life ought to be.
Yeah.
And then it affects everything you have struggled for. Because let me give you a back end. I didn't start speaking English early in my life. I didn't. So we are just overcome Mayowa speaking good English.
Yeah. And then plunged into another one.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know, so as you know, looking back now, you know, even as I grow, when I was growing up, I'm looking back at a lot of things that have happened to me. And I'm thinking as a parent now, I'm thinking there's so many decisions that our parents have made or had made that they felt like it was the best decision. At the time, because of course they are parents, if they made it because, like your dad, for instance,
why are we going to pay rent when we can go to our own house?
Yeah.
Why are we going to pay rent here when is the burden on your mom? I think we should just move and go to our own house so that we can reduce that burden. And so look at it from this point of view. Then you didn't see, but now look at it from the point of view. A man that is concerned about his wife, the burden on his wife. Look at it from this point of view. A lot of people now say, oh, why are women going to go and work, or husband going to work in that town and that wife working in that town? This generation, it's not this generation. See, things have been happening for so long where someone has to make a decision to say, if I didn't get a job in this town, I could get a job in another town that could help the family. I could commute and go back and forth, between two cities. So people are doing that. They've been doing that for so long, and that should show how much sacrifice the parents have made for their children. Which is why I expect now that you actually love your home and you love your us. Yes, we're going to get there. Yes, because of the sacrifice that she made. So for young people who are listening, who are always at our target audience for this show, is to always see that sometimes you see the sacrifice that your parents are making and decisions they are making will not look like they are doing it to benefit you. But really and truly, that is actually the only the choice that they have at the time. So some just cut them some slack, right?
Yes. So as a parent right now, I understand. Because if the landlord had come to chase us out of the house,
and that story
would have been worse.
Yes.
That would have been worse. At that point, so maybe we'll look at the traumatic side, the sad side. But at that period, it was looking beyond the present and saying, if anything happens tomorrow, are we safe? And you remember that? Well, it's better for me to carry them to the bush than for me to throw them into the forest.
Yes, it's true. So that was a big decision, and then it affected you. So I want us to come down into how you navigated, GF3 or SS1 around that time in a new school, trying to get friends. Did you have to do things to please your friends to be accepted into certain circles?
All right. And so back to the story. And then my mom came like 2 days after and then moved us to Abuja. And then took me to a government secondary school there and then, because I was this sharp mouth. And
your last born, of course.
Last born. And my mom always gave me privileges. She always told me to always express myself. So I was not in a government secondary school. And then it was just anyhowness. I mean, I was always speaking. And then in my course of speaking, I had experienced 1 or 2 threats. They had planned to beat me because I heard, my boarding house eventually. Because I still got very fascinating love letter that I should not have gotten. That got me into punishment. But then it made me, I struggled. Because I can't forget that there's so many things I wanted. I remember when I was in SS1 and then I wanted these particular jeans. Can you believe I've not forgotten?
Of course.
I can't forget where I was standing when I was telling my mom, please, I want these jeans. And she said, Mayowa, wait. So for many years, I always say waiting is the worst word you can tell me. I hate to wait. So that's particular Mayowa wait. It somehow affected me in the sense of I really don't even know how to ask people for help. So even when I'm struggling, it was a hustle for me to say, because I don't want to tell Mayowa wait. But she could not afford it. She could not afford it at that period. She was taking care. She was bearing the brunt of 6 children.
Wow.
So somehow, the whole financial part of growing up affected my self-esteem. I had strong low self-esteem. Even though I had sharp mouths, but I still struggled with low self-esteem. Because
that was actually, that a lot of times we use things to mask the things that are worrying us in quotes.
I was looking for validation, and looking for whether I was going to meet boys that would like me, that would meet maybe other girls that would like me. And so I would go out of my way. I would slave. I was practically slave, do this for me, I'll do it. Maybe you'll be my friend, maybe you would talk to me, maybe you would give me extra special attention, maybe I would over apologize because I'm looking for you to like me. And then so those little drops of decisions took me. And then it's just because the things I really wanted, I didn't get them. There's some things that children just ask for. Asking like Children's Day, and then maybe I'm the only one locked up at home because my parents have got to work.
And they can't pay the money for the Children's Day party.
I used to watch amusement park on radio. I listen to it on radio. So my mom, they'll put a bottle of Coke for me, they'll lock the door. And then I'm the only one at home. And I will be crying because I'm like, oh, the other children, they're all at the amusement park. But me, I'm at home, I'm locked up. And this happened to me for years. And so these are the things that trigger the things I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can imagine. I think it's traumatizing, and it's not something that a lot of people are able to get out from. And I'm glad that you're able to come out of it, where the things that you need as a child, I recall that somebody I wanted to bring on the show, but she doesn't live in Abuja, and we got talking on. I thought she was in Abuja at first when we spoke, and then she was sharing, and it just resonated with your story. How, sometimes they would take ogi. Morning, afternoon, and night. The mother will make corn and make ogi morning, afternoon, and night for her. So much that she was so tiny, and her siblings, they're so small from it's just one kind of food they eat, pap, and it was just making them shrink, so it was that bad. And then when the mother has money, she'll buy beans, and the beans will make akara, make make beans, make whatever, that same beans, and they dig the ogi. And she says she hates, right now as an adult, she hates ogi and beans. So hearing you mention
I hate pap. Like, it's only when I have kids. Whenever I give birth and they say you have to take pap, immediately I start lactating.
The one.
No more.
You have a story about pap. You hate pap for a reason.
I took it when I was like, till they forced me to take it. I didn't have an option. I didn't like it, and then that was what was available. I wanted bread, and it felt like a luxury, and so I didn't like pap. And so they made me take pap, and so I told myself, when I grow up, me and pap got divorced. Yeah. So even my kids like it. That trauma of me not liking it doesn't make me make it for them. Like, mommy, you like it? I'm like, sorry.
Yeah. I think one day you should tell them the story as why you don't like pap. They should hear your story.
Yeah, I think I should.
So I was just trying to think about that lady's story, and it just connects deeply to what you're saying about how children need certain things at certain age in their life, and are unable to get it because of the lack in the family.
Yeah.
And that has pushed a lot of children into stealing, into doing all sort of things. But that's not your story.
Oh no.
It's about secondary school.
Yes.
Trying to be slave for friends, looking for validation. Thankfully you didn't get into all sort of vices that people got into.
Yes.
Even though you attempted it. You attempted a few things just to please friends here and there.
Yeah.
But we've seen someone come on the show who practically plunged into doing things with like substance abuse, because of trying to be friends with people. So thank God that's not what happened to you. But there are also certain things that you've done, like you mentioned, being the one that apologized a lot, and all that in friendships, just to keep friends, because they were not people that you were friends with growing up.
I didn't think I was worth it. I thought maybe they were. I always felt that they were too much for me, so I was always grateful. And it was not a truthful kind of gratitude. It was a gratitude of, please don't leave me.
Wow. There's so much to her story, different parts of her story. And so if you see what she does today with women and girls with Ashake Foundation, you understand where it's coming from, where the heart is. But we're taking this part of her story because of our target audience for the show, So now, university. You finally managed to leave secondary school.
Yes, sir.
After making some bad choices, but good, and you crossed. And then you entered university. But how did it happen? Did you just enter university? Did you get the course of your choice? Like, I'm taking it from our guest from last week who applied for nursing and got into school and went for nursing. Was that the same for you?
No. So I wrote JAM, and I wanted to study law, civic law, and the cutoff mark was not. I didn't get the cutoff mark.
Okay.
And the available course was something I didn't want to do.
Okay.
And so the next available course was for me to study education English.
Okay.
And I cried. Like, I wailed. My mom laid down on the floor and she was like, Mayowa, you can't stay at home. You need to go to school. Best decision ever for my mom, because that was the year before we started writing post jam. It was after us this post jam started. And so I went to school because I love my mom and I didn't want to disappoint her. And so I got to the class and I was like, English. Of all the subjects in this world, I'll not be a teacher again. And with the things I have heard or seen, teachers far and everything. And I was like, so me, I'll not do English, and then we're doing literature, semantics. And I was like, what in God's name? And I was like, this class, me, I'll not attend. I'll just be going there, marking attendance, looking at what they're doing, and I'll just be leaving the class, And But then, you know, when I got to school, my mom was a pensioner. She had retired, you know, and she was selling kerosene. So she needed to do something because she was like, this last girl has an opportunity to go to the university. Whatever it would take for her to get there, I would do it. So she started selling kerosene. And then holidays I'll come, but then she could only give me what she could afford to give me. And then because her pension then was nothing to write home about.
It's
Her,
the same now.
yeah,
I hear that it's still nothing to write home about.
like whatever she gets was not enough. And then she had to pay school fees.
Hmm.
You know, my father tried, but my mom was like the main source of income. You know,
Kudos to mothers.
yeah,
Kudos to mothers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then she had to pay school fees. And when she see Raquel, my first school fees, the first day of school, they came to rob the house.
Mm-mm-mm.
I remember I said there was no window. So they had just put one burglary, but there was no window, no glass window. They had used clothes to cover. And so I put the window, the phones beside me, excitement that tomorrow is school fees is here, my phones. I slept, I woke up, somebody had took his hand inside the
No
glass
way.
window, taking the school fees and all the phones in the house. And I was like, this is the evidence that Lasso is not calling.
Mm.
My mommy said, have your bath, stand up,
Go to school
and leave school
regardless.
regardless. And so that was a lot of struggle. I think then school was not so high, and then last one now increased school was 25,000. My mom was like 25,000. So I was going from home
To school for the
school.
first year.
Yeah, it was okay. Then they increased it to 25,000. She was like, what? And then she was telling me, I can pay school fees. I'll give you 2,500 every 2 weeks. So
Wow.
that's 5,000 naira every month. You know, and then you might say, that was 20. No, by the time I paid transportation, I would eat. I would buy books. Do you understand? So how would that,
That wasn't enough.
you know? And then when I got to school, I didn't know what to do. You know, my second year I stayed in the hostel, so I was able to
Really cut off transportation.
yeah. And then I stayed in the hostel, and then the hunger wanted to wire me. Like I was
What about you know, those that go to university, you believe that this is make us buy handout.
yeah.
How did you manage? How did you escape handout?
So me, I bought some, and there was one I didn't buy. The lecturer told me that I was not going to.
Aw.
Yeah, and I told him, so me, I don't have money to buy this handout. I don't have, and he held on my results. I held on to my results till final year.
No.
Yeah, I did.
For like 1.5 something. Oh
He
my
did.
god.
I didn't have it. I told him, I said, I don't have the money. He was like, go and look for the money. She is smart mouth. Because they used to call me underage in school, you know. So I carried my smart mouth again and entered into last year again. And you know, it was there was so I so one day when my roommates were now talking, they're like, oh babe, this one guy is too much.
Did did she come from another family where she had a lot or
Not so much, but a little bit of struggle. So and so she now said, man, so I had problems with clothes because apparently, like, how am I going to be able to afford clothes? Like, how am I going to be able to? How am I going to buy recharge card?
University?
I don't understand. Like, how?
So you did that? Did you have a lot of friends? Because I know that you mentioned when we were having conversation that that really affected you not being able to mingle with a lot of female friends because of clothes. So I want to hear that part of the story and how it affected you, because a lot of girls right now want to go to university. I just watched a video on Instagram where a girl went to steal Bond Street. And I'm like, for what? What's the meaning of this? What are you stealing for? You know, like egg. But in the video, you could hear people talking and saying stuff like, it's peer pressure, you know, and all that. And I'm thinking, did that happen to you where you are pressured and that made you to just seclude yourself from other girls because maybe they know only me get close to where
because I already had low self-esteem and I was a sanguine, but I was introverted. Because I stammered a lot. So for me, I even struggled with making friends. I struggled. Like I just always felt that it was brain beyond beauty. Because people always said I look like a boy. So I'd already been told I was not fine. So how was I going to be able to attract good quality friends? And this is my English again. Even though I was studying English in school, but in my class, I was speaking Yoruba a lot in class. I learned Yoruba in university studying English.
Let lots of people not hear you on this call.
It was a good one. It was a good one.
Yeah, I know.
It was good because how would I be in Lagos? How am I going to be able to interact with people if I cannot speak my language? The yab was too much now.
Yeah.
And so I struggled with making friends because I didn't have the nicest clothes. And then I had low cuts because how am I going to be able to make my hair in the name of God? Where is the money? Like to be making I used to have a particular hairstyle before. I know I was like, I can't maintain this thing, so I cut the hair off.
You could, oh wow. So you cut your hair because you couldn't afford to maintain your hair.
I could
While
not.
I'm just telling you about a video of someone that I watched that stole
I'm sorry.
sweets. Wow.
I could not.
Thank you for taking the high road.
No,
Thank you.
Well, there was, Raquel, this how we talked about these things. There was 2 days when I see some silly things.
I can imagine.
So, but at that point, I just felt that making hair was my priority.
Yeah.
So back to clothes and back to recharge cards. When I struggled with clothes, and then my friend had told me about a market. And we went there, and they were buying clothes like 100, 150.
Tell me about this market. What's the name of the market?
Katangwa.
Katangwa
market now.
Is it the Tuesday market in
No,
Lagos?
I think it's Monday.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I know there's a Tuesday market called Aswani in Lagos.
No, I think Friday is Thursday.
Oh, I can't remember. I know that way back. Like we used to go to that market. If you didn't go to that market and you like you are the nepo.
Yeah, Nepo. Yeah, the Lapo. Pure Lapo, baby. Yeah, so I will go to Katangwa and I will see 150, 100
Yeah.
naira, 50. We'll see it now.
Yeah,
And I
sure.
feel like if I see this kind of clothes, maybe I
Yeah.
can just buy like 10 more.
Wow.
Come to my hostel. Since I was squatting with my friends, come to my hostel.
So you couldn't even afford to pay for hostel.
So I think no, I tried. I tried for like a session.
Wow, you tried.
But then I could not sustain it. So we now said, okay, let us go and stop another of our friend. Went to
Wow.
they gave us one tiny room where the bedroom didn't have a
Cover. There's no door.
There's no door. It's all me and bedroom and door. It didn't have a door, but
You shall manage.
it's a house now, so you should learn to manage. Yeah. So we had this room where we used to stay. God bless her forever.
Amen.
God bless her. Like because she allowed us to stay there 300 level and 400 level. And she didn't.
That's so good.
And
Yes.
she didn't. Her mom was fantastic. Her mom, she's forever my friend. And we'll go there and go and check out some extra clothes. I came
And that's
back.
where the business started from.
Yes. Starting selling secondhand clothes. Then I used to sell recharge card because really, since I had problems with recharge cards, because for me, I always say I used to convert I always feel that whatever thing I'm struggling with, if I can find a solution for myself, I think some other person also go through it.
Mhm.
So when I knew that I had problems with recharge card, I started selling $100 recharge card in class. And I'll sell it in class.
Those paper recharge cards.
Recharge card.
I remember those.
I sold it.
They sell it for 80 naira, you sell for 100 and get 20 naira for each. I remember it very well.
Sometimes 10 naira, you make it 10 naira.
Yes.
At least when you sell 10, you can have a recharge card on your own phone.
Yeah.
So and then I started selling. I went once, I went twice, so I was increasing. It was for a moment. But I always tell people that I always knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I always felt that because like I was telling you behind, I said I'd already joined GCI. I wanted to attend events, conferences, and programs. It felt like, but then I was also hungry. So hunger was there. But I wanted to attend events. And my mom was like, Mayowa, if you can raise the money, go for your programs. I will never stop you. But I don't have the money I only have money to just try when I can. But I really cannot. And you see the reason why. You have 5 other siblings, and everybody is hustling. I'm trying to support them one way or the other. And you are the considerate child. So the business increased one after the other. My church card and that. And before I did it for a whole
School session.
school session. And when I was done with that, when I was about to get to 300 level, the end of 300 level, I became a brand ambassador for a mobile company.
And those days, they are brand ambassadors.
So that time,
Yeah.
music, music phones just came out.
Yeah.
And so we were the first set to get music phones in schools. I used to organize brand activation. See, when you are hungry,
Yes.
you will think.
Yes.
And how did I even go for the event? Because we said there's going to be a weekend. They're going to take us to a resort. I think I just been walking under grace, because how would I have just gone to a place I didn't know about? I went to a resort because it was going to be food. We ate. They're like, let's eat to a pop. So when people say Mayowa likes food a bit, I'm like, the journey is far, but now we're just like, it's not like before. Yeah. So the business grew, and then
So does the conferences. The conference to attending, and more.
And then I started meeting people. I started learning. I started becoming like a better leader
In JCI.
Okay. And then I volunteered for LEAP. Leap Africans. So all those things helped me.
Mm.
And so I was there for leave because they're going to pay me.
Mm.
They're going to pay me every 2 weeks. And the money was good then. And so at first you would say it was passion, but then it was hunger.
Mm.
Hunger and then passion met, and then
It's a powerful combination, actually.
yes. So it was hunger and there was passion. So it was a case of, do you want to volunteer? I want to volunteer. I don't want to go home. Okay, volunteer at this school 3 times a week, pay you every 2 weeks, and then 8,000 something. It was 16K a month.
Wow, that's big money. Oh.
That's a lot of, like, and then because
Okay.
my house to where I was volunteering, it was not so expensive. It was like
Yeah.
800 naira. So by the time I do 8 times 3, 2,400, and I'm going to get 8,000.
Yeah, it was
You
good.
know,
Better than nothing. Yeah.
I did a lot. So I was able to attend church, church I wanted to attend,
Yeah.
do the things I wanted to do. So, you know, if I just, in retrospect, I just feel that if I didn't go through all those things, it was not going to train me to become someone who creates opportunities out of nothing,
Mm.
who always tries to find a solution out of nothing. Even though in that 400 level I made 1 or 2 funny mistakes that came back to haunt me later. But then I also learned in that one too. I
Mm.
also learned. I so in my doing, I'm learning.
Mm.
But then money affects.
Yes, it does. It does, and I hope that as you're listening to, as we're coming down to the last lap of the show, if you're a young person who's listening to us, you understand that you can actually do with just a little that your family has at this time. If you listen to so many guests that we brought on the show, not many of them say they've had it all together. A lot of them have come to say this is how life has been challenging. And for those who listen to the first, that's the opening session where I introduced the show and I had it on Guess It on the show. I talked about how I also came from a very Nepo, what do you call it? Lapo background, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't all rosy, it wasn't all that, right? And all that, and maybe that's actually what even intrigues people the more about me, because a lot of people who come from this kind of background are more hustling and fierce and angry, and they are hoarders because they feel like it's going to finish, and all that. But so a lot of what I intrigue about me, because I'm not that kind of person. Because and they're like, how come you've gone through all this and then yet you are this kind of person, So you don't have to allow the things that are happening to you right now to form and make a bitter person. It can make you a better person, which is what we're saying with Mayowa Ashake Foundation. Despite this financial setback that her family encountered that affected her in school, we don't have a lot of time to go into a lot of detail. I wanted to ask you more questions around studying, how it affected you, but let's just I want to put that in the wrap up. Now that you've learned all these things, and you didn't allow your background to put you on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And valid, there were challenges and there were mistakes made, but like I said, this is not the time for them. We wanted to really talk about the hardship and what you did with the hardship, that it was positive, and you started a business, and so tell us now, this business you started and this life that you started, volunteering and helping other people despite your own need. What are the 5 things you would say if you're a young person or your university or your family is going through this difficult time? The country is very difficult right now. People are going through a lot. And what would you say to them to do despite their odds?
So one of the things I'll say is that because you have experienced it, you're in a better position to help other people not to experience it. When I volunteered for Leap Africa, and then I was a facilitator for leadership, ethics, and civics, it helped me to create something called the Community Change Makers Initiative in Ashake Foundation. If I didn't volunteer, I would not have been able to. It's like I took the script and then I replicated it for what I do. And I see the effects with girls. I know because I have been there. I understand. So beyond sympathy, I have empathy because I understand. So when girls talk to me, they're like, Atumara, you don't. I'm like, I understand. When I told them that, imagine growing up in a nice place and then all of a sudden you were yanked off into a place where you from friendship to nothing. So that's one thing. Number two, in everywhere you are right now, everywhere you are right now is for a purpose. And if you don't learn something from it, it is going to be wasted. Everywhere you are right now, whatever thing you're struggling with right now, you're struggling with addiction, with financial issues, whatever thing you're struggling with,
you have to learn. There's always a lesson to learn. So take a deep breath. Look back before you start condemning yourself. Everybody you see has a story.
Yeah.
So don't think that yours is the worst. Everybody has a story. No, the third thing I want to say is that because I understand the power of entrepreneurship, I understand the power of selling something. I love the value of making something every other day. So even when things are not working the way I want to work, I remember that, oh, I can do this my small business and I'll make something to support my family. Because I saw my mother do it. Because I saw my mother do it, because I did it in university and it helped me, then I know that there's a track record. It has worked. What has worked for you that you think is small or is little, does not make any sense? Go back to it. We sometimes expect so much. We're doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Go at the things that has worked. Look at the things that, oh, while I was in this situation, what did I do? It might just be unconsciously. You did it. Did it work? Can we try it again? Is it going to work? Can we do it better? And so I always tell people that do something, no matter how small. And so it even helps my work when I'm saying when I'm very passionate about women empowerment, about why a woman has got to do something. No matter how small it is, do something. So my work is centered around women and girls, women empowerment, girl child education. It's because of the things I've experienced as a young girl. For women, I saw my mother do business so that she would send her child to school. For when it comes to girls, I understand. I didn't even understand the menstrual health hygiene. That's another story for another day. But then, and also that's what volunteering will do to you. When I volunteered with Raquel, I'm like, and she was telling me about how girls struggle with sanitary pads, and I was like, I don't know. But volunteering will even make life easy for you. There are mistakes you will make with volunteering that life might not give you the opportunity to make that mistake. And so even as a person, every time you have the opportunity to volunteer like your life depends on it. And so I'm where I am today because of the people I have volunteered for, the things I have done free of charge, the things I have done unconsciously. But then I was learning. So wherever you are, whether you're when you're in university, please try and look for conditions to join. Whether it's ISEC or JCI, whatever, look for something. Learn. Be part of the project. Take on difficult tasks. I remember the first time I was told to manage a medical outreach, and I was like, I had no clue. But because I had volunteered for other things, project is project. It's just different thematic areas. Project is a project. So, however, so if I always tell myself, I've handled very tiny projects because I've volunteered, I've learned how to manage money. I've learned how to work with low budget to do big things. People have asked me, Mayowa, how much is your project? Your project? I'm like, if I tell you the real cost of this project, you will just shout because really it wasn't so much, but the impact was felt because I have volunteered. So whatever situation you are in, and because I always tell people it's getting worse, like the pressure is getting worse. And so as a young person, you have social media, you have all the social media, you have AI, you have all these things. We didn't even grow up with that. We had to write letters. We had to do a lot more. Now the stage has been put in your hands. You have been carried to the stage. You didn't have to climb the staircase. You have been carried. Because you have been carried to the stage, please maximize every opportunity. Whatever thing you can use to learn, please learn. Please learn. Because whatever thing you are learning now might not be useful for you now. Might be useful for you in the next 15 years. But no knowledge is ever lost.
Yes.
No knowledge.
Never wait.
There's some things I do now and I'm like, when did I learn this thing? I remember, I learned it maybe in secondary school. Like when I'm trying to help my kids to do mathematics or work. When they say, read your book. The mathematics I learned in GSS1 and GSS2 primary school. Something I'm trying to help my daughter, and she's like, Mommy, how do you know? I'm like, truly. I can't remember. I remember that when I was in primary school, they made me. I always tell her, they made me learn it. Because they made me learn it. You also know it. So go through the process. Don't run away. Don't run away from it. Go through it.
Go through it. You've heard. We've there's so much that has been said, volunteer because it's important. She said go through your process, go through your journey, don't run away from it. She's also shared the fact that go back to the things that have worked before. So if you have done something that's worked, like she had done business while in university and it worked, and you can always go back to that and say, wait,
I'm struggling right now. I can always go back to that time when I made business and it worked, right? And then it all that, and then volunteer. There's nothing too small. There's nothing too tiny for you. If as long as they give you something to do, please do it. And of course, we run a non-profit, so
Yeah.
we're always looking for volunteers too. So if you want to volunteer, of course, send us a DM. I'll tell you how to do that.
Yeah.
But volunteering is good. It helps you, and it helps you opens your heart to see the things and the challenges that people that are going through, that it can even help to align your work better.
Yes.
So before we close, I just want you to just tell us about the work you do at Ashake Foundation with girls now, like one of your projects that has helped girls, and maybe a story about a girl that you've supported through because of the work that you're doing.
Okay, so I like to talk about this particular story. So there's this particular beautiful girl that I met when she was in GSS 1 or 2. Yeah. And then her mom, because my primary work is with widows, and then I had already her mom was still alive, dad was gone, and so she was a widow. Her mom was a widow. And so I got a sponsor for her, who was paying for her school fees from GSS 2 or GSS 3 or so, and she's graduating next year, and not long after her mom passed. And we're talking sometime this week, and she's the only one that went to school actually. The other siblings, they're struggling. But this girl she enjoys scholarship, she enjoys, sometimes she gets plane tickets to school and back. She's in her dream university, studying in her dream course. And it's just because of the fact that, I started in Ashake Foundation, and then I started working with girl child. There are girls that I know that, I have like 3 girls graduating from the university next year. And it sometimes baffles me. I sometimes feel like I've done something good. And I have another set of girls again that when there's this particular girl, when I met her late last year. She was a timid girl. I know, but then she went through the Community Change Makers Initiative. I made her write a vision board. She was just screaming the things she wants out of life, and then she was telling me the things she wants, and then she became the head girl of her school. And so so I have women who didn't have a business. There's one that I came across in December. She learned soap making. And then she's like, that's what she uses to feed her family right now. So she supplies car washes, supplies different. So that there are girls and women doing different things. So the women empowerment work, you see a lot of
it's life changing.
Yeah. And I always say you don't need to have so much.
Yeah.
You can do so much with so little. Just for you to be able to manage and be able to maximize everywhere you are at that point. So for girls, I'm seeing girls who are very timid. I'm seeing girls who are
very confident.
Yeah, very confident girls who want to be leaders. Because in the particular school I'm working with, I got 8 prefects.
And you're in your set of
Yeah,
girls.
and I only have 15 girls in my set, and the other ones are not in the SS. They were not in the class. So all the girls
in your project
class, all got prefects. They all became prefects, and not just ordinary prefects. They were like the top prefects,
I like that.
And and then so even paying school fees for the girls, and all those things it's so simple, and not only girls too. So this particular one I'm doing for girls and boys, but mostly for girls. And then you see the effect, see their results. You be like, if nobody came through, doctor, if nobody came through, we're going to send us out of school.
But then you came.
And then so I'm always grateful for the opportunity. I always tell people that if tomorrow I say I'm not doing it again and I'm done, I always feel I've done something good in my life.
Yeah.
So that's how. So the work of women empowerment, cultural education, and then also menstrual health. Volunteering with Raquel made me understand the power of sanitary pads. I didn't know, because I always, at least no matter what, I had sanitary pads. But then volunteering, so that's a part of power of volunteering. That's part of things that I have now put so much in what I do, that in every time I'm doing stuff for girls, you must always find sanitary pads inside.
So thank you for the work that you do. So I know that somebody might be listening and the person might be thinking, I need to reach Ashake Foundation. Can you throw a number?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to get to us, you can get to us through 09-134 737314.
Say that again.
09-134 737314.
Thank you so much. I hope you got that. If you didn't get that, you can still send us a DM on Instagram at Beyond Her Odds. at Beyond Her Odds. We're sorry we can't open the phone lines. I saw that the phone was ringing earlier. We're sorry because we only have 1 hour and it's not enough to take calls because then we're not able to unpack our story. But then Mayowa's story, like I said, it reminds us that life can fall apart.
Yeah.
But you can rise again with everything that is happening, and you can just be living in the comfort of your home one day and then the next, you're trying to figure out how to survive. But her story is a reminder that whatever you put your heart to do and you do it well, you will succeed.
Yes.
As long as you don't give up. Mayowa chose to rise. She chose to build. She chose to help others, even when she was still trying to figure out life herself while in university. And we're saying that it is a reminder for anyone that is listening. You don't have to wait until it's perfect at all. You don't have to wait for a huge platform to make a difference. You just have to begin, right where you are with what you have in your hand. She started with buying secondhand clothing that we call okrika, and she sold them, and then she look at how her life turned out today. She's not doing that business anymore, but she's doing other businesses. She has the Ashake brand where she sells lots of home food stuff for people, and I buy from her. So whether your story is starting, it's about survival, or whether your story is about addiction, like we mentioned, whether your story is about whatever it is, dropping out of school, pregnancy, failing, whatever it is, you can rewrite the ending, just like Mayowa did. And you can go beyond her odds. That's the most important. Yes, you can go beyond her odds. We are going to have to close up at this time because, of course, we've come to the end of the show. But I would like to also drop our handle again to say it's at Beyond Her Odds on Instagram. Just send us a message and we will respond to you. If you have a question for Mrs. Adigbile, please just say this is a message for her. We've got some questions for our guests in the past and we've shared it to them, and we'll always, of course, send it to her. Thank you so much, Mrs. Adigbile, for coming. We hope to have you again in season 2
anytime,
of the show.
Anytime. I'm so grateful to be here.
Okay, everyone, we've come to the end. And as always, my name is Raquel Kasham Daniel. I'm your host, and I'll be here again next week with another guest doing the same thing I do every week, helping girls and women go beyond their odds by sharing stories of other women. If you missed the story, don't be upset. We're back again next week, Thursday, 3 to 4 p.m. on this dial. Stay with us, and don't forget, you too can go beyond your odds.